We're the Greater Baton Rouge Industry Alliance, and we're a trade association made up of 53 of the area industrial petrochemical plants. And we help to steer education and safety performance and best practices among the different plants. And today our focus is about education, connecting education resources to the industry jobs.
Whether a person chooses to work first, attend a trade school or college, they can receive a certification, a graduation cap, and a hard hat in different orders. But the point is that any path that is chosen will end up with a very successful career. There are so many options, but our challenge remains to get more people interested in participating in our industries. So now I'd like you all to hear a great, very successful career path story from Mr. Gerald Hardy, the Geismar Site Supervisor with Air Products, and he's going to share that with us now.
My name is Gerald Hardy. I'm currently a site supervisor for Air Products in the Geismar area. And I'm here today to speak about one of the many paths that are available to those who are seeking a successful career in the petrochemical industry. My story is not unusual. Like many of those who attended high school in the Baton Rouge area, I had my sights set on attending LSU, getting a degree, and landing a career where earning money did not seem like work. Well, during my second semester, I had a life-changing experience. God put a special person in my life that, for some reason I've yet to fathom, agreed to become my wife. Shortly thereafter, we started a family. And since that time, I've made some good decisions, but the best decision I ever made was to ask her to marry me. We've been married 26 years as of yesterday. We have 10 children. Yes, I said 10 children. And we have 2 grandchildren so far. Throughout my career, her input has been critical to my success, as I'm sure many of you here can attest to with your own spouses. Now, I was made aware early that education was critical to any form of success. Being the father of a young family, I felt the pressure of providing for our household. Growing up in the Baton Rouge area, I was also aware that many families were supported by income from the petrochemical industry. So I went to work. But not only did I go to work, I continued to go to school. As I now had a full-time job, I was not able to continue attending LSU. I changed courses and began an apprenticeship through Associated Builders and Contractors. Back in the days when I attended ABC, we were part of a 4-year apprenticeship which was indentured by the state. In order to graduate, a person had to document 2,000 hours of OJT and attend classes 1 night a week for 4 years. A few personal hardships occurred, and it ended up taking me 5 years instead, but I made it. Though our graduation ceremony may have been significantly less celebrated than many of the ones I've attended in recent years for technical schools, community colleges, and 4-year colleges, it has turned out to be no less profitable. Within a year of completing my apprenticeship, I was hired by Air Products to be a multi-craft technician, specializing in the electrical field. After doing my time in the field, I moved into maintenance supervision, and recently I accepted a position as an operations supervisor. I can say with all honesty that my career has been very rewarding to me personally and has provided a standard of living for my family that I am extremely grateful for. I also know 3 of the graduates from my ABC class who have been employed by various companies since then. All of them are doing well, and one also has a leadership role. I've been fortunate to work for Air Products for nearly 21 years. That is increasingly rare these days. One of the reasons I've been with them that long is their commitment to train and educate employees. And another reason for sustaining my career with them is their willingness to provide opportunities to employees who display the ability to assume greater responsibility without necessarily having a 4-year degree. That has always been a motivating factor for me. One opportunity that my most recent role with Air Products has afforded me is the chance to engage and support our community. And one of the relationships that developed from this is a mentoring program with ITI for P-Tech students. My current supervisor, who's here, is a member of the P-Tech Advisory Committee for ITI, and he inquired whether I would like to participate on the committee as well. And furthermore, he asked if I would be interested in piloting a new idea of his. This idea was to adopt a class from beginning to end through their 2-year journey with ITI. I would visit my class on a regular basis to support them in a few key areas. One area was exposure to the industry. I shared my experiences in the field with them. We brought them to our site to tour the facility, get a close-up look at the equipment they would be working with, and see what they were getting themselves into. Another area was motivation. As I had walked the walk, so to speak, and was now reaping the benefits of it, this gave them a sense that it was possible. Certainly not guaranteed, as we all know, but very possible. The other key area was a focus on employability skills. These are the skills we all look for when interviewing for new employees: commitment, enthusiasm, reliability, and the ability to work with others in a team environment. I'm proud to say that by the time my class graduated, nearly all of them were hired by plants in this industrial corridor. I even hired a couple of them for my plant, which turned out very well for them, for us, and for ITI, who we are partnered with. And to steal the phrase that was already used, I call that a win-win-win. Our industry is in ever-increasing need of these types of successful outcomes. These are the individuals that will help us to raise the level of competence in our workforce. If you have the time or resources to support and encourage these educational opportunities, please do so. Not only will they make a difference in all of our businesses, but they will enhance the lives of those who live in our communities and our state. And I believe we have a responsibility to do so, especially when many of us here have so much to be grateful for. Some of you may be wondering, as I did, how I got the opportunity to come up here and speak today. Connie is also on the PTEC Advisory Committee at ITI. We happened to be sitting by each other at the LCIA Legislative Conference update a month or so ago. After the updates, we were discussing how well some of the new educational focus dovetailed with our efforts at ITI. I mentioned that my career was also the result of an industrial trade education. Connie asked if I would mind sharing that at this meeting. Maybe if I had graduated from LSU, I would have been sharp enough to come up with a reason to say no. At some point, I still plan to do that. So thank you for listening, and thank you to Connie for allowing me to share today.
For our featured speakers for today, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gifford Briggs and Mr. Charles Magnot. Gifford will explain what is happening in the oil and gas market boom, and then Charles will help us finish connecting the dots between the forecasted growth, what the State Workforce Investment Council is doing, and our education needs.
As you can see in this map, same thing. The blue is the parishes that are impacted, potentially could be impacted by drilling in the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale. To give you a little better idea, this is where it's roughly estimated that the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale exists. It's a continuation of the Eagle Ford Shale in South Texas, which is probably the hottest play, or one of the hottest plays in the country right now. There's a lot of acreage that's been leased up, and just gives you some of the numbers. Devon's got 250,000 acres. Denbury's got 150. Another company in Canada that's very strong in the Haynesville Shale has also leased up a lot of area, and you're seeing more and more leasing going on right now. Not paying the Haynesville Shale prices that were when the Haynesville Shale was going crazy, but if we saw $13 MCF and $150 oil, you probably see that same thing again. Why is it Tuscaloosa Marine Shale? Why is it that we're looking at it? It's got a favorable geologic setting. There's about 3 million to 7 million prospective acres. Great reservoir attributes. It's drillable and frackable rock. It's overpressured with high-quality hydrocarbons, repeatable and predictable drilling inventory, and that we can just sort of, it becomes manufacturing more than it is wildcatting. You just put a well here, and you go to the next spot, and you go to the next spot. And then over time, we'll see costs decreasing. So then to show you the next slide, I want you to think at the Haynesville Shale map that we just showed you. We keep talking about this boom in the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale and this need for jobs, and we're going to have this incredible rush of activity. This is the same map that shows the unitization that we saw in the Haynesville Shale well. We've got 9 producing wells right now. We've got 1 well drilling in the Tuscaloosa right now. Compared to where we were at 140 in the Haynesville Shale. And you can see these maps, the West Feliciana, East Feliciana, and Tangipahoa, St. Helena are sort of where the activity is right now. We are in an exploration and test phase. Companies are going out, they're leasing up acreage, we know the hydrocarbons are there. The question is can we produce the hydrocarbons and sustain production over a long period of time to make them profitable? There are three sets of challenges that we are continually facing as an industry, two of which everybody in this room can help with, and one of which I don't know that anybody can. The first one is the EPA and federal regulations. The EPA for a long time has been trying to get their hands on hydraulic fracturing. Their goal would be to regulate it similar to how they regulate everything else, and that in order to drill a well, instead of being regulated by the state, which we are now on hydraulic fracturing, we would have to get a federal permit. I'm sure that you've worked with the federal government and you realize that that doesn't necessarily always, is not always the best thing. If they do get control of hydraulic fracturing, there's two concerns. One is the timeline and the cost for getting a permit. There's some numbers that have put it as anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 in increased cost per well, not to mention the timeline concerns about it. But the bigger concern is if 90% of the wells in the country are hydraulically fractured, which the number may actually be higher, and the federal government controls the ability for us to do that. Could you imagine if there is any particular or accident or incident or allegation where hydraulic fracturing actually caused some damage? So far, the EPA has alleged multiple times that hydraulic fracturing has contaminated drinking water, and after investigation, it's shown that that's not true. But if the federal government controls hydraulic fracturing, the first time that there's any allegations, they're going to do exactly what they did in the Gulf of Mexico during the moratorium, and they're going to shut down hydraulic fracturing instantly. That would give the federal government the ability to shut down the oil and gas industry in the state with the swipe of a pen, and that is very terrifying and is a very real concern that industry has. State challenges. You would think that the state of Louisiana, as dependent as it is on the oil and gas industry for revenue and for budget and to educate our children, that we wouldn't have challenges at the state level. We just went through one of the most challenging legislative sessions that I've been through. But coming up in the next legislative session, once again, we're going to have budget issues, and they're going to be looking for ways to solve the budget that don't mean cutting government spending. And so the number one target is going to be incentive that the oil and gas industry has for horizontal drilling. And we believe strongly that they're going to come after us, and we're going to be working with all of our associations, LCA, Lobby, and others to try and fend off that. Because without that incentive, the numbers that we already can't drill in the Haynesville Shale. Without that incentive, the cost goes up incredibly, which makes it that much more or much less likely that we will drill, and same thing goes for the Tuscaloosa. And then the other issue is local issues. You know, once we got the Haynesville Shale going, every local government wanted to create their own permits, their own fees, their own road use taxes, and everything else to try and really make sure that we capitalize on this. And I'm sure those parishes in the Baton Rouge area, when they looked at what was going on, they said, well, if we could just get that kind of activity and that kind of economic growth in our area, we would do anything. Well, until the Tuscaloosa shows up, and now all of a sudden we've got local ordinance issues in every parish at levels that we've never had before. We've got parishes that are trying to ban hydraulic fracturing in the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale. And so these local ordinances, and believe me, your city parish councilmen, they listen to you more than they listen to anybody else. Pay attention to what's going on, because these ordinances certainly hurt the industry and make us not want to drill. And with the Tuscaloosa, we do have an option. We go right across the state line to Mississippi, and the companies can produce the same hydrocarbons that they do here in Louisiana. And so we have to be very wary of these local ordinances, because it gets to a point where a company says, I got different rules in every parish in the state of Louisiana, I'm just going to go to Mississippi. And that's a very real concern that we have.
I had the opportunity about a month ago at an ABC quarterly meeting to hear Mike Albano speak and give his message on the demand for craft trades and what that's going to do for our state. So I'd like to tell you real briefly how that message and messages from other associations, how does that get to the state level and how is that used? And as Connie said, I'm a part of the Workforce Investment Council. That council is made up of 41 members, 15 of which are the state department heads or their designees, and the other 26 are made up, like me, of individuals that have been recommended to the governor by the various associations here in the state. And our function is to try to understand messages like Mike had and make sure those messages do not die when they get to the state level. And 2 years ago, when the long-term occupational forecast came out, we were very interested to see how that forecast was used. And what we found, there was a tremendous amount of skepticism out there. And I remember in talking to a president of one of our regional colleges, he told me that when he looked at it, he immediately found that the information the way he wanted it wasn't presented in that way, and he never used it. And so what we did, we decided when this preparation process began last year, we were going to be very engaged in understanding the development of the forecast and make sure that all the associations were involved. And early on, after the first pass the state does in determining the industry projections, they base this on historical data. They look at our payroll tax reports, and they will create what they come up with the industry projections for all the industries that we're associated in. And then they take this and they give it to LSU. And they, in the past, have tracked 150 key employers in our state. And they will contact them, and they will interview them both on the long-term needs of that company and also the short-term. And from that, they will then adjust upward or downward their projections. What we did this year, we said, there is a phenomenon going on with natural gas. We would like for this list to be expanded. And so we contacted CANA, we contacted ABC, we contacted the associations that would be associated and have an effect on this natural gas. And we told them we needed their contact list, which they provided, and we increased the number of companies that we interviewed from 150 to 200. And those 50 companies were related to this industry. Then I had the opportunity a month ago to come and hear Mike speak at ABC. And from that message that he gave to us a few minutes ago, we went back to LSU. We had 3 discussions. LSU went back to the Economic Development Office, and they further adjusted upwards the industry projection for the specialty trades, which is our industrial contractors. So where we're at today, we've taken the WIC. The WIC has taken these industry projections. We've gone out to all the associations we represent, and we've had buy-in to what these projections are. These projections now are being put through another model, which will then determine staffing patterns by each of the industry codes. At the end of this month, the occupational forecast will be completed. We'll present it to the governor. We'll get it signed, and we'll be able to move with this. And that's really where the hard work begins.
I hope everyone here today learned a little bit about what's going on in GBRIA and how we're trying to interact to make the connection between education and our industry. I hope that each of you were able to put together a few of the dots and try and understand the connection between 4 major areas. The first area is our natural resources that we have been blessed with here in Louisiana. The second area is going to be our industry, which harnesses the resources released from our environment and then transforms those into products which are usable in our society. Many of the things that you see around you in this very room came from our industry. Thirdly, we hope that you can connect the dot between our educational system and how important that is to link up to our community at large. It is through our educational system that we train our workforce for the future. Our theme for the day is connecting the dots between industry and education. However, what we've done here today is just to kind of present a picture, a static look at what's going on today. However, in connecting the dots, that's an action word. And each of us, or many of us here today, were invited here because you have a key role in connecting those dots. To give you an idea of what will it look like if we reach our goal and connect the dots between our natural resources, our companies, our educational system, and our community.
Right now, this focus of this meeting is on education, getting workers and for the plants and the contractors that can meet the challenges that we see coming in the future because of this boom that the industry is seeing with oil and gas.
It's so important because right now there is a huge boom going on in the petrochemical industry. The price of natural gas is very low, which is stimulating a lot of new investments. There are a lot of new plants coming in, and we need folks to work in this industry. We need more people to get trained as welders or electricians or pipe fitters or engineers, accountants. Lots of different job opportunities are out there, and so that's why we're trying to make these connections today.
In order to have that investment installed, we will need a large number of skilled craft workers. And unfortunately, in this region, and actually all along the Gulf Coast region, there's a tremendous shortage of skilled craft workers. And so what we're here today about is trying to link up the educational community with the industrial community to provide these workers.
When you look at the industries that we have, let's just take this region. The Greater Baton Rouge Industrial Association covers the region in this area, and we have so many of the plants, so many of the manufacturing facilities that form a real base. When you think about other services that people use, quite often they're really at the end of the day because people are located here supporting these manufacturing facilities. And a craftsperson's job is the backbone of these facilities, keeping them in good running order, building new facilities. It's the key to growth. It's the key to having a very high quality standard of living in Greater Baton Rouge area and in the state of Louisiana.
Talking maybe 25,000 jobs over the next 5 years, and there'll be every kind of job you can imagine. Operating positions, craft positions, engineers, advanced degrees, everything. They're all high quality jobs. There's a variety of pays depending on the scales, and most of the companies offer a complete benefits package. So you're talking high quality jobs, $50,000 to $150,000 a year and more.
The Tuscaloosa, it stretches all the way from north of Lake Charles all the way to through the northern part of the Florida parishes of Oils, the Felicianas, Tangipahoa. Most of the activity we're seeing right now is sort of in the West Feliciana, East Feliciana, Tangipahoa area.
Currently, the primary mode we have through providing these jobs is through either the ABC or union craft shops. We have been in the last several years trying to work very closely with the educational community to start putting resources in the schools to develop kids at that level to enter the craft skill work arena. And our focus today is to try and make that last step of fully integrating craft skills into our school system.
The Haynesville Shale is already the #1 producing resource play in the country for natural gas, so there's an incredible opportunity there. In the Tuscaloosa, we know that there's plenty of hydrocarbons in the ground that can be taken out, and you know, I don't know that it's fair to say it'll be the next Haynesville Shale, but it certainly can provide a huge economic boost for Louisiana. Haynesville Shale had a $12 billion impact in 2012. 17 billion in 2011. So if you even take half of those economic impact numbers and a $5 billion impact, I mean, that would be incredible for not only for this area of the state, but the state as a whole.
There are good opportunities out there for people in industry, but that in order to be ready to take those opportunities, you have to get a good education.
When today's conference is over, I'd really like people to take away that Louisiana has a rich set of resources here in terms of education providers, and a lot of new jobs, a lot that are coming, and there's a big need for folks to get trained and to participate in the growth that's happening here.
We want to make people to make these contacts. We want people to know that there's roots to the future for everyone. Most every kind of person with any kind of skill can find employment if they can just get the right qualifications to go forward.
We currently have a need for craft skill. There are jobs that are going to be available. They're good paying jobs. And for those kids who don't see themselves as going to the university for college education, that this is a very viable outlet for a sustained career that can lead to even higher paying jobs.
Specifically for the Tuscaloosa, that we're at the very beginning phase of it right now. There's a lot of concern that, or in anticipation that we're going to see 100 rigs running in the Tuscaloosa in the next 6 months, and I think that that's probably a little bit aggressive. We'd love for that to happen, but it's a little too early to tell if it's going to be successful yet, and we're at the very beginning phases. So remain hopeful, but temper the expectations a little bit.
I just encourage everyone to get involved. We believe in GBRIA. We believe that the key is that there are a lot of different entities involved in attracting people to craft roles and in doing the training. Everybody in each of these fields, that are, whether you're in a technical college, whether you're in a high school program, whether you're in any other entity in the state that works with the training of people to do crafts work, you have an important part to play. You know that, and we need to keep growing those parts. We need to keep working together to continue to grow the abilities to attract people into craft roles and train them so that they can go out and provide the services that we need.
If people have questions or like more information, what should they do?
They can contact us. Our website is www.gbria.org. Call myself, 769-0596. That's the 225 area code.